Howdy y'all, and welcome to the first part of the SOFC Educational Workshop Series. Today, we will be covering how to track your organization's finances. Before we begin, please scan the QR code on your screen so we know who's in attendance for this presentation, both in person and online. My name is Ethan Walker, and I am the Graduate Assistant over in the SOFC in charge of Learning and Training Support. As we go through this presentation, please feel free to ask me any questions, or refer to the contact information at the end if you have any questions after the presentation is over. Before we hop into how to track your organization's finances, first we must talk about the why. Why do organizations record their finances? There are four main reasons why organizations want to track the money that passes through their accounts. First is internal decision making. Organizations need to know how much money they have so they know how much they can spend. It's important to always know your running account balance so that you aren't overdrawing your account or alternatively, not using your resources to their full capacity. Secondly, organizations need to make sure they take good care of the money they have received. Oftentimes, external institutions, such as the SOFC, conduct audits on your account to make sure that you are good stewards of your funds. It's important that you record transactions timely and accurately so you don't run into any issues. Next, organizations track their finances for historical context. When making budgets, you need to refer to historical spending and earnings so that you know about how much you plan to earn and spend in the future. This is helpful not only to know how much you're spending, but also what you're spending on. Finally, tracking finances is important so that you can report to donors and other stakeholders on the financial health of your organization. Now that we know the why, let's cover some basics of financial transactions. There are two main categories that transactions can fall into: income and expenses. In simple terms, income is any money that your organization receives, and expenses cover any money that your organization pays. In other words, income increases your account balance and expenses decrease your account balance. On the right, you'll see an example income statement. An income statement compares income to expenses to show if your organization is making money or losing money. It's important that your income meets or exceeds your expenses in any given fiscal period so that your organization maintains financial health. Now that you have a basic understanding of what financial transactions entail, let's cover what information we should be recording on our ledger. The term ledger simply means a running list of all financial transactions. First and foremost, we need to record the transaction amount. How much are we spending or receiving? To keep accurate running account balances, we need to know how much is being taken out of our account or how much is being added for every transaction. Next is the transaction date. Make sure that you are entering transactions when they occur in chronological order. This is especially helpful when comparing your internal records to online statements. You may have trouble matching up transactions if you record them in a different month than when they have occurred. Next is your vendor or customer. Who are we paying or who is paying us? It's important to make sure that we know where all of our money is going, so if there are any issues, we know who to address. Fourth is transaction details. This is essentially an extension of the vendor or customer with some added information about what we're actually paying for. For instance, if you have multiple invoices from CC Creations for merchandise, member shirts, and posted signage, you need to know what every transaction is used for. It's often not enough just to know who you are paying. Lastly, you will need to know what account you are drawing funds from. Every student organization will have a main account designated by 00000, or all zeros. However, many organizations have more than one. If you have an account through the TAMU Foundation, it will be designated 99999, or all nines. and other special funding accounts like SOFAB or Goodwill will have 98,000 or 99,000, among others. Student organizations will also have the option to open any additional subaccounts upon request. These additional subaccounts usually take the form of 10,000, 20,000, and so forth. Although all this information is important to include on your ledger, it is not an exhaustive list. Feel free to add any invoices, invoice numbers, SOFC attachments, or anything else that you would think would be important to record. But, at the very least, make sure that these 5 categories are accounted for. I've mentioned several times throughout this presentation the concept of a ledger, but where should you actually be recording transactions? Although we could give you advice on how to enter and where to enter, the short answer is that whatever works for you and your student organization works for us. Common solutions include accounting platforms like QuickBooks, Google Sheets, handwritten paper journals, or the SOFC Excel template, which can be found on our website. Online ledgers have the advantage of calculating account balances and total income and expenses for you, whereas on a handwritten journal, you would have to add everything up yourself. But whatever you're comfortable with is perfectly okay as long as your transactions are timely and accurate. I'm going to briefly go over the SOFC Excel ledger just to give you an overview of what a running ledger might look like. At the top, you'll notice there is a box for beginning and ending monthly balance. These numbers are important to know how much you actually have in your account. As you incur transactions throughout the month, you add total deposits, or income, to your beginning monthly balance, then take away total expenses, and then that difference becomes your monthly ending balance. As I mentioned earlier, if your total income exceeds your expenses, you will make money, and therefore your account balance will increase. But if your expenses outweigh your income, you will lose money, and therefore your ending balance will be lower than it was at the beginning of the month. Below that, you will notice a space to enter all of your deposits and expenses. Our Excel template only has space for date, details, and amount, but you can of course add your own columns if you want more information. One advantage of using our Excel template is that the total deposit and expenses will be automatically calculated as long as you enter dollar amounts in the amount columns, so you won't have to go through and add them up every month. The total amounts in the highlighted columns will be reflected next to total deposits and total expenses, respectively, and those cells will reference to the boxes at the top between beginning and ending monthly balance. All you have to do is enter the transaction line items. On the bottom of your screen, you'll notice that there are separate worksheets for every month. We have found that separating out transactions by month helps you compare your ledger better with the statements posted online, because those statements are posted also every month, but you don't have to follow any certain template. Some organizations that have multiple subaccounts will use the bottom worksheets to separate the transactions by subaccount instead of by month, and all the transactions throughout the semester or the year are on one running ledger. Again, I'll mention, a common theme in student organization finance is that whatever works for you works for us, so there isn't necessarily one correct way to do it. If you have any specific questions about how to maintain a ledger for your student organization, feel free to contact us and we will be happy to assist you. One final point to cover here is the Get Involved statements that I've been referring to throughout this presentation. Every student organization will have monthly statements posted to their online Get Involved account where you can see a list of all the transactions that pass through the SOFC from month to month, separated by account. Transactions are posted within 2 to 3 business days, and the platform is updated every single night. Get Involved statements will have information like that which you've added to your ledger, including date, category, description, and amount for every transaction, as well as beginning and ending balances on the top and the bottom of this statement. We recommend going through and reconciling your internal records with the online statements at least once a month. If you are interested in the reconciliation process or are preparing for an audit by the SOFC, we are having a workshop later in November about how to reconcile your accounts. Some quick announcements to note before we wrap up this presentation. Part 2 of this workshop series will be happening on Thursday, October 9th at 2 p.m. in Coldus 146, where we'll go over how to budget for your student organization. And Part 3 will take place on Thursday, November 6th, also at 2 p.m. in Coldus 146, where again, we will cover how to reconcile your SOFC accounts. If you have any questions whatsoever about anything that I've covered in this presentation, or any other questions about how to use the resources at the SOFC, please refer to the contact information on the screen, as well as some helpful links to get involved, the SOFC website, our electronic forum library, and our on-demand video library. Thanks and gig 'em.